Welcome to the Beneath the Label episode 4, where we are going to dive into clinical studies, especially specific to Nu Skin and how we do this entire development process. I had on this episode welcomed back Dr. Helen Knaggs, our Vice President of Research and Development, and then I welcomed Melanie Riggs to this episode, and she has been at Nu Skin for over 20 years doing clinical studies with us, and I loved learning from both Dr. Knaggs and Melanie all about how we do clinicals, how we decide to do clinicals. Are they in-house, out-of-house? How many people? There's so much to learn about clinical studies, but if we are putting products in our bodies and on our skin, I think clinicals are so important. So join me in this episode as you learn all about clinical studies. Hi, welcome to this episode of Beneath the Label. I'm your host, Kathy Schultz Johnson. I am here with Dr. Helen Knaggs, and you're joining me again. This is so fun. We had so much fun on the first episode that we did that now we're back here with another one. And you are going to introduce Melanie here so that we can talk about our topic, which is clinicals and how we do clinicals.
Yes, so Kathy, thank you for having me back. I'm so glad that you enjoyed hearing about all things to do with retinols, right? And so today I thought I'd bring a special guest, and that special guest is Melanie Riggs. And so Melanie, we're very grateful to have you at Nu Skin, and you've been here for many, many years, I think more years than me.
A long time.
Why don't you just say a little bit about your background?
Well, thank you, Helen, and thank you, Kathy. It's so great to be here with you, and I'm so excited to chat about what I'm so passionate about, which is clinicals. So I've been with Nu Skin for 21 years, and 20 of those I've spent in R&D and running studies, all different kinds of studies. We run things internally. We work with experts around the world. So it's just been really great to really delve into the products, the science behind them, what makes them so special, and get all of the great data both from our consumers and our, with the different experts that we work with to learn about the products.
Yeah, and I think one of the exciting things about your role, Melanie, is this is where it all comes together, right? So
right.
You're really doing some very, very important aspects of our whole research and development process. So clinicals will tell us about whether products are safe or not, right? But they'll also, really exciting, tell us whether they work or not.
Yeah.
And that's part of our success process. So tell us a bit more about that.
So I often feel the same way, that I'm so lucky that I get to see the end result of all the R&D that goes into the product. We test it, and I get to be one of the first to see how it really is performing and be able to craft ways to share that data out with our consumers.
Well, and that's really important too, because the work that you do then leads directly into our claims. And so claims, Kathy, are what we see on the package. So the work that Melanie does connects to all of the language that we tell our customers, that we talk to our sales leaders about. So we've actually got bits of data and proof that Melanie creates for us.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. We're coming up with a new product, let's say. So we're going to come up with a new skin cream. At what point do you start thinking about the clinicals that are going to go with this? Because I know you're, from the development side, you're starting right at the beginning, like, here's the key ingredients we want, or here's the benefit of this. When do you start in that process thinking about how you are going to prove it, how you're going to do those clinics? Because I know the clinicals, it's not like, well, and maybe it is. This is where I want to learn. Like, maybe Helen, our scientists, create it, hand it to Melanie, and then we decide on clinicals. But do you really think about that earlier in the process? When do you start thinking about the clinicals to figure it out, prove something, do something?
I would say near the beginning, because the way that the clinical is designed, we need to make that, we want the results to come to life. So I want to understand the ingredients, what are we trying to claim? All of that goes into how the design is done. So for skin cream, if we're going to look at, let's say, a serum that's going to help with lines and wrinkles. So I will talk with the dev scientists on Helen's team and just understand what are the key ingredients here. We'll work with marketing and understand what they want to say about that. And then from my experience on how we can test and make those claims come to life, then I can start putting together like a study design that shows this product helps with lines and wrinkles. We are going to demonstrate that via instrumentation where we can actually measure the depth of the wrinkle, look at how long it is. We can do imaging. And then we, very importantly, want to know what consumers think about it. So tell us your experience. You know, do you think that it worked? How did you like how it felt? Those types of questions are so important.
And I really love how you say that you're bringing the research and development to life, right? Because you're demonstrating the difference that our products can deliver and showing that they add real benefits to people and create real value for their beauty and wellness journeys.
For sure. We want it to have real meaning. It has meaning for you.
Well, and the combination, right, Helen, where it's, and what you're saying with like consumers, where yes, you want to measure it, but how did it make you feel? How did it do this? Like, that's such an interesting part of, especially like beauty and wellness is, you know, how do I feel when I'm using it? But also to be able to prove it and to show, you know, that difference and not just have it be, oh, I like the smell of it, or I like this, but that combination, I think, is the perfect spot to be in.
And we often, as we build a product, whether it's for beauty or wellness, we start with an end goal in mind. So what do we want this product to do for our consumers, right? So we're meeting a consumer market need. So, for example, anti-aging, you know, consumers want to improve the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. Or maybe they're looking to increase a certain vitamin or mineral that they have, right? So we're always starting our research and development with that end goal in mind. And then what the team does is they start to build the formulation with that end goal in mind. And as we're doing that, Melanie then can engage and start to say, okay, as we're building this formulation, how do you want me, as Melanie, how do you want me to test it? And she's looking for the best options to do that testing. So Melanie just doesn't go with like just one test. She's often looking to see what we're creating and then choosing sort of the optimal way of testing that.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the kind of things you're doing when you're planning that, right?
Right.
So there's different kinds of studies.
So many.
Like, okay, so let's, I want to talk about them because I often, from the sales and marketing side, right? I'm like, oh, this was a in-house study. This was done in a lab. This was like, or a third party study.
Double blind, randomized placebo.
Right. There's a million different ways to do these studies. And I'm assuming that's all part of your plan, your planning process as this is all happening. How do you make those decisions? And then I want you to help me define like, what are the differences? So if I'm a consumer, so our listeners who don't know all this stuff, what should I be looking for when I'm looking for clinical proof and a study on something? How do I understand what those are? So I want to learn, Melanie, all of that.
Let's discuss. So I think to set it up, I think it's so important to realize that what we do at Nu Skin is really unique. It's great to have we always put the best ingredients. We have all the data on the ingredients so we know that they provide certain benefits, but we take it to the next level by actually studying them in use. So developing clinicals is, I think, so unique for Nu Skin. Like, we do this on all our products. We really want to understand how they work and what benefits they'll provide for the end user.
And often when we build the product, right, we're often looking at the data of one ingredient on its own. But as we all know, our products are many, many ingredients. And what we don't know is how all of those work together. And that's the bit that Melanie gets to do.
And so often, I'm guessing this is what sets us apart, like you were saying with Nu Skin. You'll see, oh, this product, maybe it says clinically proven, and maybe it's another study on an ingredient only, right? Like,
it could be.
That it could be. And it's not that we don't want to use those studies, I'm guessing, but understanding if it is just on
Well,
vitamin C or
exactly.
something, right?
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly.
different than your full blend, which is where we take it the next step.
Exactly. And that's the exact example I was thinking of is a vitamin C, well-known ingredient, has great anti-aging benefits, antioxidant. There's a lot of studies over the history of vitamin C that we have access to, and it's certainly important to leverage those as part of the development of the formula. But then when you include it with other ingredients and make our product, that's where it really comes to life with our studies, where we can say, okay, you're going to use this vitamin C serum and you're going to see benefits at these different time points. So after a week, for example, after a month, and showing how you can get short and long-term results by actually using our product. And that's what we're studying for.
That's so interesting. Okay, now you brought up something that is very interesting to me, and I just go, right? I'm just following my train of thought here. How do you decide how long you need to study something?
Love that question. So that is tricky because depending on the type of product, I think we all want that instant benefit.
I
want
immediate gratification.
I want to say I'm going to use it one time and amazing, right? So we incorporate those shorter term time points. So typically for a skin product, we like to build in some of those early time points. It could even be instant. We have so many cases where you'll put a product on and you can see an instant benefit. It hydrates you, it makes you look more radiant. It might have like a plumping type effect where you appear more full. There's so many different things that can happen after just one use. And we know that. If you put a lotion on dry hands, like I have dry hands, I can feel that immediate effect.
Right.
But we also know that if we continue using products as recommended, and as they're designed, that we'll see benefits that will show up more long-term. So things like lines and wrinkles, things like, maybe skin tone evenness, take a little more time to start seeing those benefits. So it's important for us to build in some of those longer time points. So 4 weeks, 8 weeks, sometimes even up to 12 weeks. And I think, honestly, that is so meaningful for the consumer because, I'm going to get benefits early on, and it really is to my advantage to use this as directed so I get those benefits over time as well. I don't want it to just be for one time.
I love that. How do you decide who you're going to put in a clinical study? Do you just walk down the street and you're like, I'll take you and you and you? I'm assuming when you're developing a product, you're going for a specific age group and different, and so then you would build that in?
Obviously, on what the product is designed to do and maybe who our target demographic would be, right, to use that product. So that plays a role in how we recruit individuals into our clinical study. But each clinical study has a very wonderfully crafted and well-designed protocol, Melanie, that you put together. And in that protocol, we include inclusion-exclusion criteria. So why don't you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so clinical protocol, we hear the term, what does that really mean? It is essentially the instruction manual on how we're going to run a study. So we want to make sure that we recruit these type of subjects. If it's 4 lines and wrinkles, then maybe we want to recruit people that actually have mild to moderate lines and wrinkles, so that we can see that change. It doesn't mean that product can't be used for people that don't have that, because, I might not have a certain concern with lines and wrinkles around my eye area, but I still want to make sure I'm taking care of it. But for the purpose of the study, we want to show how it works. What benefit does it provide? So we'll include people that present with mild to moderate wrinkles, and maybe that's going to be a certain age demographic typically. We want to make it broad, so we really like to include all types of skin. So dry, oily, we want to...
And gender as well, right? Male, female, yes, men, women, yes.
Different ethnicities. So these products are meant for anybody with those concerns. So as part of the study protocol, we build that in so we can include those people, test it on them, get their feedback, and then provide the results on how it worked over a broad population.
I love that. I just love this. I love knowing what goes into the building of it, but it just gives me so much confidence in the products that we're using, knowing how much effort is going into making sure that this is going to do what we say it's going to do.
Right.
Okay.
Well, our secret sauce, if you like, is often our proprietary blend of ingredients.
Right.
So it's really important that we show that that's actually produced the results that we expected.
Yeah, it just, I love that. I really feel like it creates a standard that everything I put on or in my body, I want to have a standard like this.
But you know, Kathy, actually, not everything works.
I was going to say, what happens when the clinical doesn't work? Yeah, what do you do?
Yes.
Well, that's the beautiful part about science and doing studies is, let's say, for example, let's take our skin cream example with the lines and wrinkles. We're going to go in and we think we've built this, we've formulated to have effect on lines and wrinkles. But it doesn't just do that. Let's look at some other things. What does it do for radiance? What does it do for hydration? Does it do anything for appearance of pores or maybe like firmness? Let's look at a broad range of skin-related benefits while we're doing this study. We don't want to be so hyper-focused on one thing. Let's see what else we might get. So if we do the study, we don't really hit that mark with the lines and wrinkles, but you know what? Our formula was so amazing for these other things. We found out that it has radiance benefits. It has like a reduces the appearance of pores, which are so important as well because all of those things combine to improve overall appearance of your skin. So we might not get our initial objective, but we have other things that pop up as part of what we study.
I love that. Do you ever at that point, kind of when you're going through these clinicals, and I'm going to assume yes, but you might not. This might be where you guys are like, Kathy. Like then you come back to your dev scientist and you're like, that didn't quite work how we thought it was going to work.
Oh, yes.
Like I'm assuming there's a lot of back and forth where you're like, okay, let me fix the formulation a bit.
In skincare, it's often about the texture of the formulation, how it feels, whether it absorbs quickly or not. And we're always going that extra step to make sure that we provide our consumers with a great skincare experience. So Melanie does a lot of studies where she's just looking at what was the consumer perception of using that formulation? Did it absorb quickly? Yes. Was it pleasant? Did it smell nice? Fragrance is one you've been testing a lot of lately, right?
Yes.
And so that's really a very iterative, all those types of studies are very iterative because we'll get the results and then we'll feed that back to the dev scientists. They'll rework the formulation. Melanie will test it again. And so we're constantly in this cycle of test, rework with some formulations.
I love that. And then once you feel like you've got the right formulation, then you do like kind of your final clinical study, or do all of those clinicals go in to here's what our clinicals showed?
Well, in the situation where we're iterating and we're still trying to fine tune the formula for optimal experience and benefit, then we'll do all of that work. And when we get the one where we're like, we've hit it, let's put this through the clinical now and let's test it.
That's when you go.
Yes. Let's get the claims together for you, Kathy. What are we going to say about it? And then we'll test it. And then from there, we're going to put together our results where you'll see the different graphs and the images of how it did. And like going back to our discussion on what happens if you don't get what you initially thought it would do, well, that's why we build all these other things in. So when we actually put it in use on real people, what do they see? What do our expert graders see? What do the instruments pick up? And we're often very surprised. And I think that speaks to how well our development scientists do our formulas, is that they're so well done that we have multiple benefits out of the product.
Well, they're getting tested hard, I'm guessing, by Melanie's team here, right?
But also, I think several times we've seen benefits sooner than we expected. In many formulations and many products, we've seen results come a lot earlier than we would ever imagined was possible. And I really think that's a testament to how we've designed these products and done the formulation work.
I love that. How do you decide, I'll see often this one's an in-house study or this one was gone to a lab. Is that just based on what equipment we have here versus if you do it with what we have versus other clinical labs or different things? That's all part of your plan on if you decide in-house or out-of-house?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have internal capabilities. We have We have a whole panel that we could pull from that are different criteria depending on what we're looking for. We've got skin instruments in our internal clinical lab that we can use that look at hydration, for example, skin barrier. We can do imaging. We can do a number of things to look at the skin. A lot of what we do internally, we do incorporate a lot of that instrumentation, but we also get that consumer perception feedback. Our panelists they're very critical, which is fantastic. We want them to tell us, we want them to be honest and provide really quality feedback, because then that helps us understand our product better and then ultimately deliver great results for our consumers. So internal studies we will often do, I think, for the consumer perception side, and we'll build in the instrumentation as well. But we also work with contract research organizations, which are the third party, where they are experts in a certain area. So, for example, I think we were talking earlier, Kathy, a peptide pout.
Yeah.
We did that. We worked with an expert in imaging. So that's really what they're known for, is they can really get those high resolution clinical grade images. And that, I think, is so important for the consumer, because you can see so clearly the benefit of the product. And I think we got some great pictures on that, even just after one use. So you can see that. So it just depends on what the claims are, what our objectives are. Are we trying to get some really specific type of images or certain instruments involved? And then we'll select the best place to get that result.
I love it.
And I think it shows the fact that we can do these in-house studies really speaks to Nu Skin's commitment to science, and the investment that we've made in our clinical lab and in buying some of this instrumentation. And it gives us much more sort of agility in terms of doing that iterative work when we can do things in-house. So we can do things a lot faster, we can get the results a lot faster, and then build again. Right? So it gives us some advantages to be able to do studies internally. So I think, as you look overall at our product development process, we're really well suited to deliver what we need to our consumer in a way that keeps up and even oftentimes is ahead of consumer trends.
I love that. And I've been at Nu Skin a long time, but I love how much science and clinical studies and things we put into our products. Is there a distinct difference when you're doing skincare versus nutritionals with studies?
Well, yes. And again, with supplements, we really want to make sure that we do, and we mentioned the term earlier, a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical. So meaning you've got your active product. Let's say we're going to do a multivitamin, and that will be the active group. So it has actual vitamins, minerals, and different phytonutrients perhaps in the formula. And then we'll have a placebo group, which won't have any of those actives. It'll still be in the same format. So if it's a tablet, it'll be a tablet, but with none of the actives in there, none of the stuff that really is there for nutrition and the well-being. So we will run a clinical comparing the two groups. And there are a number of different metrics that you can include as part of a double-blind placebo control study. For supplements, we often like to include blood work is very common because you can measure. It's there's standard ways to assess for that. So if we want to look at vitamin C, we can look at vitamin C. What happens here? So this group of 30 people took the supplement with vitamin C, and this group took the placebo with no vitamin C. Let's look at their blood work after 3 months, and we'll see that the group that took the supplement had increased levels, whereas the placebo stayed the same. So that is just a very basic example of that style of study, and that's so important because it shows when you take the product, you're actually getting the benefit versus a control.
Yeah.
And you don't normally do that with skincare but more with supplements, that you do the double-blind placebo type studies.
Yes.
Do you ever have people really mad at you if they were in the placebo group and they didn't get the benefits?
Well, everybody gets to sign a lovely consent form. And so
I would be so sad if I was the placebo group. Just know that, you guys, if I ever end up in one of our clinicals, I don't know, I'm not going to do it. I would be so heartbroken if I didn't get the benefits of a product.
But then we would be so grateful to you, Kathy, because you've helped advance the science objective.
Oh, that's the right attitude. You're advancing the objective. Okay. All right. So I won't be angry if I'm ever in a placebo group. I'll be grateful that I know it did it, and then I can take the good product once the study's over.
Exactly.
I love that. What else? What else am I missing with clinicals or with studies or with things that I don't even know I don't know?
I would add that, again, with our internal capabilities, we always want to make sure that we are comparing well with any of the external facilities. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we went and did that extra step where we had one of our SAB members come in and actually walk through our clinical lab and do an audit of our clinical lab to make sure that our clinical, the process, protocol writing, how you monitor things was all really sort of at a great level, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we want to make sure that the process is so important. If you can design a beautiful study, but if it's not executed according to the standards, for example, there's a certain way to use instruments to measure skin. There's certain standards for clinical imaging. We want it to look a certain way so that we can use the images before and after. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we've all seen
we've seen
online some pretty amazing before and afters. But if you look at it, the lighting is different. The way they're positioned is different.
Oh, they're wearing makeup.
Yeah. Like you had eyeliner on that second one and not on the first one, and it just detracts from the credibility of the result. So for our internal lab, we want to make sure that we've met all of those standards. So no matter where we do a study, you can be confident that the results are reliable and robust.
I love that so much. Oh, there was something I was thinking of when you said that, and now I've lost it. What else, Helen? What other things are you so excited about? Oh, I remember what it is. One of the things, Melanie, that I love that you do with Nu Skin, I just want to give you a huge shout out and compliment here, is you are always looking at, again, for the end user or even the person, who is selling the products, like, can they also do this same thing? And it's something that I have always loved, hand washing on a strawberry or an orange versus using a device on it, doing different things. I love how your mind goes to, I can prove it in a lab, but here's how you can help see this yourself too. And you're just brilliant at that.
Too kind.
Yeah, but I mean, that gives you confidence if you can take that and you can do I'm not going to be able to do the same clinical proof, but I love how you think, how your mind thinks like that, and that you put it in the plans.
Do you remember with our LumiSpa, our Jello demonstration?
Yeah, that was you, right?
That was Melanie.
Yes, I know. Like I love how your mind thinks, like, yes, you can think in this full lab setting and all these like details, but also,
how is it relevant?
How is it relevant? Yes. And how can I, as a questioning consumer, do it?
As well as how as I, as a technical person who is, seeing graphs and data, but how can I make that data meaningful to a sales leader who's then selling these products or helping them to build a business?
Yeah,
I think we're the luckiest.
Yes.
I mean, we have an amazing R&D scientist, but we have Melanie. I know.
Melanie, our secret.
We have Melanie.
That's your. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the example that you brought up, Helen and Kathy, with using, and that was the LumiSpa with the orange, and these are great because I think LumiSpa is a fantastic device. We've done so many clinicals to demonstrate the different benefits that it provides, but I like to take to that next step and show visually what's a quick and easy way to just show maybe just one or two key benefits that this device or product provides. So that you could just do in your kitchen, everyday stuff. Like, I have an orange hanging around. Let's see. You can do that quick demo and just show within just a matter of seconds how effectively it cleans. And so that has so much, I think, power for the consumer to understand, wow, this is going to work for me. And we all know, I mean, orange is not your skin.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But it's so demonstrable because it shows that it is very effective, and you can replicate that and pass that along to your friends, and they can see. So I think with what we do in R&D, we're always thinking at the end, how is the consumer going to use this information? It could be a demo. It could be using the results that we get in some nice infographics, but there's a number of ways that we can do that. But the end result should always be, how can we have this data have meaning for consumers?
I love that. I have learned so much. Again, from like when we start on an ingredient one until like the full blend. And I mean, it is a full-time job for a whole team. No, but I mean, so much effort goes into it. And I hope everyone listening to this feels that confidence and starts questioning every product that we use, right? Like, and if we learn a little bit more about how this works, we can look and say, okay, what kind of studies were done? How did they do this? I don't know. I'm not that we all need to be scientists and questioning, but I feel like the more educated that the end consumer is.
Yeah, and I think we often talk about our success process, but what does that actually mean? And one of the things we've done here is talk about and bring that success process to life. What does it actually mean? And how does that success process add value for our consumers?
Right. And it's so much value.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You add so much value for our consumers of the products.
Well, thank you. And it's fun. It's fun to see our products in action and to be able to share all this great news. Like, wow, we learned all this about this supplement or this, the skincare product. And I just thought of one more point, like back to your question about what happens if you go into a study and you're expecting one result, but then you learn something totally different. So let's take the topic of sleep supplementation. So we go in and expecting our product to perform a certain way with sleep. We get some sleep data, but guess what we also got? We also got some skin benefit data. Because logic would dictate to us, if you are sleeping well, then that should have some kind of physical appearance benefit. But we actually got that. We measured it. We saw an improvement in radiance. So I think things like that are so exciting because we'll go in thinking we're going to get this set of claims met, and I just got this amazing benefit out of doing the study that we can now share for consumers. So
Which is amazing.
Right. So they're going to take the supplement, they're going to get sleep benefits, and it's going to have also skin benefits as well.
And that sort of emphasizes the importance of not looking at just either beauty or just wellness. It's that benefit of both of these things together that I think help each other deliver these benefits.
Right.
Which I love it. I love how much goes into it. I do. I love how much goes into it. I love the back and forth, with the full research and development, process and everything with it. I get the end product, right? Like I get the end product when you guys have done all this work, but I get all the benefits of everything that you prove and you do when I'm getting to go out and really talk about and use these products. And I love it. Okay. Anything else? Any final words, Helen or Melanie, on this topic?
I think that we've got a lot more exciting things to come, right? Melanie is already working on our next formulations. So stay tuned.
I love it.
We might have to have round 2, Kathy.
We will. I was going to say to all our listeners, ask us what more you want to learn about this whole
That would be
process.
great.
And we will keep, answering and delving and, just because these are the questions I have or that you guys thought of. I mean, I'm sure that people are going to have even more questions.
And we're happy
for
to
us.
share.
And we will always share.
Delighted to be here.
Yeah.
So anytime.
So awesome. Thank you both for being here. And thank you to our listeners. Make sure you subscribe and follow and do all the things for Beneath the Label. And we will see you on our next episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
let's just let it be. Let's just let it be. I don't need to attack the microphone. I don't need to.